thank you everyone who is joining right now. I am Gina. I am your host from ARC and Codementor. Thank you for taking the time to join today. This job fair and this tech talk is organized by ARC in partnership with Interview Kickstart. And as ARC, we connect great developers with companies around the world. So if you want to learn more about us and about Interview Kickstart, we will share the link in the chat box right now. Today, we will learn how to build a striking resume that will catch the recruiter's attention and get you shortlisted. And to make sure that you take full advantage of this talk, please feel free to drop all of your questions for Nick in the Q&A section that you will see down below. We will answer them either through the talk or by the end of the talk. Also, don't worry about making notes immediately, since we will send the recording your way after the talk. So let's dive right in. Let's welcome our guest today. Here with us is Nick Camilleri, Head of Career Skills Development and Coaching at Interview Kickstart, the top interview prep school for senior engineers. He's also a former LinkedIn recruiter and has extensive experience in full cycle tech recruiting. He has a passion for building and developing teams and is a true believer in the mission of empowering professionals to uplevel their careers. So without further ado, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. And please, the stage is yours.
We'll get started here. As Gina mentioned, I'm the head of career coaching at Interview Kickstart. For anyone who hasn't heard of Interview Kickstart before, we are a preparation program for folks that are trying to up-level in their careers, primarily focusing on software engineers, product managers, data scientists, data engineers, engineering managers, all that fun stuff. And I've been with IK for about 6 years now, which is crazy to think about. But in that time, I've been able to help about 15,000 people transition. I've been able to build an amazing team of mentors, both from technical recruiters as well as engineering leads, technical leads, engineering managers, to teach you guys the skills you need to be able to perform in interviews, and more importantly, when you get there. Those folks span also across the globe and come from some of the biggest tech companies that you've heard of, as well as some of the coolest unicorns that you might not have heard of quite yet. So it's been awesome to be able to work with people and help so many people transition over the last 6 years. And I'm hoping I'm excited that I get to share some of these insights with you guys as well. Okay. So as Gina mentioned, if you guys do have any questions as you go through, please feel free to drop it in the Q&A and we'll get started.
Nick, I think you're muted. You might want to try to unmute yourself.
You are correct. Thank you. Yeah, if there are any questions as we're going through, again, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. If they're relevant to what we're looking at, then I'll try to get that in the flow of the conversation. If there are things that we're going to talk about in the slides to come, I'll hold them off, or again, we'll have a more generalized Q&A at the end. So I definitely want to make sure I'm hearing you guys as well. So let's discuss really quickly about what we're going to be going over today. Okay, we're going to talk about how to identify the right opportunities for you. Okay, and I want to be very specific about you and who you are and what your goals are at this point in your life, at this point in your career. Okay, we're going to talk about securing interviews and the different strategies to do that, and how to really make yourself stand out for the roles and the teams that you're most interested in. Okay, we're going to talk about different audiences. We're going to talk about writing resumes to show impact, how to highlight different sections of your resume, and some strategies to secure interviews as well. Okay. All right. Very cool. So let's get into it. All right. So the first question we need to be able to we need to ask ourselves is, what is the right opportunity for you? Okay, and in the course, we actually have an exercise that we've built up that helps somebody really analyze the stage of their career that they're in right now, and where they want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and what that looks like from a career perspective, but also from a lifestyle perspective. And we'll actually work with you to go step by step to kind of map out, how do you get there. Is it something we could jump to in one jump, or is it maybe a two jump or a three jump thing? And what's the path? What's the strategy? So I'm going to give you guys some of those insights that we've learned by doing this with so many people over the years. Okay. Now, the first thing is that this is not a one size fits all thing, right? In terms of what the right opportunity is for you. Okay. We have to start by identifying what the right role is. And so, how do we do that? Okay. We start by understanding where you are today and why you're shifting. Okay. In essence, you can think to yourself, what is my role, my title, my company, my location? What does my day to day look like? And what about that is not fulfilling to me at this point in time? Okay. What about that is fulfilling to me as well? Okay. Both are equally as important to helping us hone in into kind of the direction that you should be heading into. Okay. But we start with, why, what is the inspiration or the purpose of a shift? Okay. Uh, Once we have this, we want to understand what priorities are most important. Okay. Now, for some people, we want to think about your priority might be finances. Okay. Maybe you're currently underpaid. Maybe you want to relocate, and the new place that you're going to is going to be more expensive. Maybe you're in a certain geography, and you want to be able to bring friends or family over to where you are, and you need to be able to sponsor them in some way. Okay, whatever the case is, if finances are important to you, we need to understand that, right? Maybe you're in a situation where finances are not as important, and that's okay too, right? Maybe for you, you're very much a mission driven person, and you care more about the problem that you're going to be solving. Or maybe you're trying to switch into a new domain, a new expertise. Maybe you want to work with specific people or work with specific tools. Okay. Again, none of these are wrong answers. It's just what is most right for you that we want to identify. Okay. Once we've identified that, now we start to look into what types of roles would meet those requirements, right? What does it look like to meet those requirements, and what types of roles would not meet those requirements? Okay, so let's give it an example of this. Let's say that you are the type of person who really likes solving strategic business problems. You really like working with people, but you're also very technical. Okay. Well, a pure backend developer role at a company that expects you to be very heads down probably wouldn't give you the ability to work with people or work on strategic things as much, especially if it's a larger company. Okay. So in that case, we might want to think through this through the lens of what roles would allow me to still have my technical itch scratched, so to speak, but also let me work with other people. So maybe I could be a manager. Maybe I could be a TPM. Maybe I could be a PM, so a technical program manager or a product manager. Maybe I can be like a solutions architect. Okay, all of those roles allow me to do both kind of the strategic business side as well as the technical side. So from there, we start to think about, well, what do I want to do more? Do I want to spend more time with the customer? Do I want to spend more time on the strategic side? Do I want to spend more time with internal employees? Do I want to help develop careers or develop products? These are the types of things that we need to think about: is what do I want my day to day to look like? Okay. Now, for some of us, that's going to be continuing on the path that you're already on, and that's fantastic. Okay. For others, it's going to be a bit of a shift, and that's okay too. Okay. Now, from here, we want to identify both companies and teams that will match that criteria. Okay. Now I want us to pay attention to that distinction that companies and teams are not always the same. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is that a company, okay, there's a hypothesis or a starting, this is a starting point or a hypothesis around, I believe this environment will give me an opportunity to meet those priorities. Okay. It's just a name on a building until you do research on it. Once you do research on it, you might be able to prove your hypothesis right and say, yes, this company is working on the types of things I want to work with. This company does have the types of opportunities that I'm looking for. Okay. Or we might say, okay, I thought it did, but it doesn't, at least not at this point in time. Okay. Now, teams within companies are very important to be looking into as well, because not every team is created equal. Okay. As an example, you could do the same role at the exact same level and have more upward mobility, more upward financial trajectory on team A than you would on team B on the same at the same company. Now, why might that be? Companies ultimately are going to reward teams that are highly beneficial to the company, right? So when you think about, say, stock refreshers, when you're thinking about pay, they're going to give more generous stock refreshers to teams that are generating a lot of revenue or value for the company. Okay, when you think about promotions, right? If you're on a team that is quickly growing, there's going to be a lot of opportunities by necessity for internal promotions, right? If you're part of a team that is succeeding routinely, you're going to be viewed as somebody that is eligible for promotions. Okay. Additionally, the culture of different teams, especially at larger companies, are different. Okay. I want you to think about, say, a company like Amazon. Okay. Amazon has over 1 million employees worldwide. Every team within Amazon is working on different types of problems. Some you'll be more interested in than others, but they're also going to be led slightly differently, right? Yes, they have similar criteria or principles that kind of guide them, but when you think about, say, a university, you might have, say, 40, 50 classes throughout your time as a student, and every teacher or a professor is going to have slightly different communication styles, slightly different expectations in terms of what is a manageable workload, what do they want to see out of their students in order to give an approval that you have succeeded. It's the same in the business world. So to recap that, right, we want to find companies that we think will meet our criteria, and we want to find the teams within those companies that will match our culture, our priorities as individuals. Make sense? Okay. Now, let's get a few examples of this really quickly. In the chat box, really fast. Can I ask a few folks to just type out any priorities that are important for you in your next shift, in your next role? What's important to you guys? There's no wrong answers here, right? Career growth, good. Work-life balance, excellent. Okay. So let's go with the idea of career growth, and let's think about the types of companies, right? Flexible timing, okay, gaining experience, similar to career growth as well, right? So when we're thinking about companies that will help with career growth, if that's a priority and it's a great one, there's a few things that we can look into. We can look into companies that have educational policies and perks, right? Some companies will give you coaches. They have mentor opportunities where you can pair up with more senior people on the team to learn. They'll have classes. For example, when I was at LinkedIn, one of the great perks, there are a lot of clubs and organizations and classes to teach you skills, right? Public speaking skills, data analytics skills, new coding languages, even things like yoga or fitness classes, weightlifting classes, right? So whatever you're trying to accomplish, LinkedIn as a perk there, they wanted people to feel like they were learning and growing. They had a culture of transformation, is what they called it. Okay, you're always growing, always transforming. You can also look at this from a perspective of let's look at startups specifically, not like a 10-person startup, but specifically companies that are on what we call a career launching track. Okay, these are companies that year after year continue to grow, continue to do well. Obviously, companies will have ups and downs, but on the general trend, year after year, are on the up and up, right? Companies that are progressing towards either being acquired or going public. Those are great organizations to be in for career growth because, again, as they grow, they need to promote within. Okay, so these are some of the types of companies we can look for, and then again with the teams inside those, as we go through the interview process, we want to look for high priority teams that are working on really challenging or complex technical challenges, right? Or that will allow you to utilize the skill sets that you want to utilize. Okay. Very good. Work-life balance is a tough one for a lot of people, right? And I see this for a lot of the folks in the chat here, right? Flexible timing, okay, work from anywhere. Now, in terms of remote policies, work from anywhere policies, a lot of companies, you'll see this on LinkedIn, and I can show you guys this in a little bit more detail. But you could actually do filters based on things like this, right? Remote, hybrid, on-site. So if I take this filter off of Amazon for a second, okay, I'm just going to have sort of this general looking for software engineering jobs. If this will cooperate, thank you. Okay, and I put the filter on for remote work only. Let's say this is a company that will likely give you a lot of that flexibility. And you can see there's quite a few out here. Cognizant, right? Microsoft, Elastic, all right? And you could filter this even by companies that are in your local geography, right? LinkedIn's trying to give me a lot of these opportunities in the United States because I'm there. And they are assuming, even remotely, I want to work in a time zone that's familiar with me. So, but the point here is that you can filter in that way when you're looking for companies. But then within the team itself, you have to make sure that you're aligned with a manager that makes sense for your definition of flexibility or work-life balance. Ultimately, every manager on the planet, it's their job to make sure that their team hits a goal. And that doesn't mean that we can just work whenever we want, right? We still have to be productive and meeting goals. But if you're able to identify a manager, right, which is one thing I'll mention, I tell every one of our students, never, ever again in your life accept an offer without having a one-on-one with the manager after the offer is presented. Not during the interview process, that's too rushed. Okay, after the offer is presented before you accept, have a conversation with them and ask them open-ended questions that forces them to give you their definition of work-life balance, their definition of flexibility, their expectations. And you can see if they align with you. Now, the difference between open-ended versus closed-ended, okay? A closed-ended question would be something like, do you promote work-life balance, right? Well, what would the manager say? They're trying to get you to join their team, right? They can say, of course. But is their definition of work-life balance that I want you to be online between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. And during those times, I need you to be locked in. I'm going to have a lot of meetings. I'm going to have high expectations of what your output is during those times. But then once you're done with that, outside, you can do whatever you want. Okay, maybe for some that's really good balance. It's like I'm locked in for a few hours of the day, and then I have a lot of freedom in the evenings or the morning before I jump in. Or is it I don't care what you do. We're going to have 2 meetings a week. You can work at 6 o'clock in the morning. You can work at midnight. You can work in between. As long as the work gets done, I'm happy. And for some, that's the ultimate flexibility, right? But that also requires that you're on all day, right? Potentially until you get your work done. So these are the types of questions we need to be asking to understand if this team within that company is going to give me that work-life balance. Okay, you guys seen how this works a little bit? Make sense? All right, very good. I see some great questions coming in that we can address a little bit later. Okay, so we just addressed this. Okay, so once you understand or have a hypothesis around some of the companies that might meet some of your criteria, or some of the positions that might meet your criteria, in order to give yourself the best opportunity to succeed in not only securing the interview but acing it, you need to understand the company itself. Okay. And I know that sounds kind of funny to a lot of people, especially if, Nick, I'm a technical person. I'm not going to be in sales. I'm not going to be in marketing. Why do I need to understand the company? It's a totally fair question. Okay. But what we're looking for here is, if we understand the core business, it's going to be very easy for us to understand where we can add value to the core business. So let's think about what this means a little bit deeper. I want to understand their products. I want to understand their services. I want to understand the tools that they use. If I can understand this, then it makes it very easy for me to say, I've already worked on similar products. I've worked on similar services. I've worked with similar tools. When have I done that in the past? If I can highlight those areas of my past experience that are aligned with what they're doing today, it makes it very intuitive for a number of audiences, which we'll get into, to see you as a great fit for the company. And when they see you as a great fit for the company, not only does it improve your chances of getting the offer, but it improves your chances of getting a better level. It improves your chances of getting on a better team or a higher priority team, okay, versus a maintenance team. All right. So we want to make it very plain and simple for the people that are there. Okay. Now, where should we look? How do we do this research? Okay. This is a great question as well. Uh, um, Companies, especially larger companies, or companies that are growing quickly, they'll often put information out there. They'll have company pages, blogs, channels, etc. Okay. Another way to do this is to Google things. Like, so for example, I put a Google list out there that just said list of Amazon products. The first link that I found was a Wikipedia page. Okay, that gives me a list of a bunch of the products and services that they offer. So when I was mentioning earlier that we want to understand kind of what they're working on, we can start to see that we might actually have relevant experience that we didn't even realize, right? So most people know about kind of their e-commerce platform and their subscription service Prime, and Prime has video, it has streaming services as well, right? There's consumer electronics like the Kindle or the Alexa, the Alexa, the Fire TV, all this kind of stuff. They also produce digital content, right? They have audio. They have audio studios, right? They have game studios. They're yeah, all kinds of stuff. I mean, tons and tons of stuff. They have a grocery business, right? They acquired Whole Foods. Okay. All kinds of stuff that we may not even be familiar with. Of course, they have AWS as well, right? So when we start to look into these, they even have dental service. Like, it's crazy what some of these bigger companies are involved with that might not be readily known. But when we see all these things, it makes it very easy to start to say, oh, okay, I actually do have relevant experience that they would be excited about. And the cool thing is, once you get an offer, you don't necessarily have to accept the offer from that team only. But this gives you a stepping stone for them to say, you could totally help us in this way, right? So a few ways to think about this. Maybe maybe you can look into, or maybe your background is in finances, right? Maybe you worked for a bank. Okay, a lot of people that work for banks go, well, it's not pure tech. Okay, that might be true, right? Maybe you work as an engineer for a hospital, or a med tech company. Or maybe you're an engineer for a retail store, right? Like a Target, or a Macy's or something like this, right? If you have any of this experience, there are recruiters at Amazon. There are hiring managers at Amazon. There are budgeting committees at Amazon that are looking for you because you have something that you can offer to one of their teams. Okay, so that's kind of that first step. There's a great question here from Carlos. How about less known companies? There are a number of resources that I could show you there. Crunchbase is a very popular one just to learn about different companies. In terms of lists of really reputable small and growing companies, I would recommend the Wealthfront Career Launching Startups uh, um, blog. They publish it every year, and it's really strong companies, primarily in North America, that are scaling fast. For other geographies, we can get you some resources as well. But those are just a few ways that you could start to get names of companies, and then once you start to see those, again, we go to their company websites, to their LinkedIn's. Right, a lot of companies, like for example, this one, um, uh, uh, if you just click on their company page on LinkedIn, you could also search for them if you find them on a different blog or something like this. Okay, and they'll have tons of content here because for them, they're marketing their business as an employer brand as much as they are as a product oftentimes. Because in order to attract the talent needs to know that they're out there, right? So these are great ways to start to find them, to play around. And you can see like they'll have life pages, events, insights, different kinds of posts about all kinds of stuff that you can kind of check out. Okay. All right. Good question. Um, so uh, uh, once you understand the business, okay, and you start to find these things, you can also look into job descriptions. Okay. There's a method I would do for this. Again, same sort of thought process. You want to see what are the types of opportunities that they're hiring for within the company. And there's a common misconception that says, like all job descriptions say the same thing. Um, each job description is written by somebody within the org that is hiring. And so there may be some boilerplate templates that a company uses, but within that, you'll start to see hints. At least at a good company that understands how to hire. Okay, you'll start to see things like this, right? Like IoT, right? Uh, our architecture is edge, commute, firmware, software stack, local network, device protocols, cloud protocols, connectivity. These are some of the things that they're looking for. I'm looking for experience in these things. Okay. Uh, um, uh, uh, right. I also like experience in these areas. Now, a lot of these are key terms, but you'll also see at many companies the types of projects that you would be working on that it would be that they how you would be applying those skills. So again, a great way to do this is you start to. I skipped a few of these up here, but you start to look for any of So we're going to be building connectivity and security layers in industrial and retail ecosystems. Okay, if I've worked on anything related to IoT, gateways, connectivity, security, retail, any of that, I can take a note, right? Drop it into a doc like this, and I say, okay, I'm not looking to get word for word here, but maybe I worked with IoT, okay, and specifically I worked with connectivity and security layers. Maybe I also worked in retail in the past, and I have two things right there that I know if I just highlighted in my resume and my LinkedIn profile, the company's going to be interested in me, right? Even if I was at a smaller scale, even if I was at a larger scale, even if my tech skills aren't perfectly aligned, or I've only worked with one of the core technologies that they want to see, the fact that I have experience in anything that's on the job description or anything that's on this list tells me that I have a really good chance of getting an interview, right? And more importantly, a chance to get the job. So again, what to look for: any relevant projects, any relevant experience, uh, uh, um, any way that you can help them grow. That's the key here. Okay. If I have experience with something that I've done in the past and you're trying to do it now, there are things that I will continue to learn by working with you, but there's also things that I've already learned that, I'm not starting at square one or square zero. I'm starting at square 4, 5, 8, and I can grow from there. Okay, cool. Everybody tracking so far? Make sense? Okay, very good, very good. Now, securing interviews it goes a little bit beyond the basic kind of what most people would assume. So let me explain that with a question. Okay, I mentioned here that there are three audiences, and I have to impress all three audiences in order to get the job. Okay, who are those three audiences? If I'm applying to a company, what three figures do I need to impress in order to get the job? There's one that's very obvious. The first person that's going to find out about me in the application process. Who's that person? Who's the first person that's going to see me? When I apply to a position. Who's going to see? Yep, the recruiter, right? Very good. Who else is going to see my application? Who else is going to see my resume? Tech leaders. Very good, right? Interviewers, hiring managers, CTO, maybe, depending on the size of the company. Yeah, right? Who else? Who else is going to see? Besides the recruiters, besides the HR, right? Besides the technical interviewers, the hiring managers, thousands of scanners, potentially. Project managers, it depends on yourself, sure. Okay. Cool. So this is where I wanna get to is I want you guys to be able to impress at each level of the funnel. Okay, and there are three levels. Okay, at the top of the funnel, when we're trying to secure the interview, initially it's the recruiter, as you all know. Okay, and what is going to stand out to the recruiter? Okay, relevant skill set, keywords. Yes, we all know this, but it's more than keywords. It's more than responsibilities. Okay, we need to see how you've applied those skills, and we need to see evidence that you've had an impact. Okay. Now, why is that important? Because once you talk to a recruiter, it's not just stamp, I'm submitting you, you're in. Okay. It's a series of conversations that are happening on the backside that the candidate never interacts with. Okay. Yes, a recruiter does have to submit a resume to get you in, but they also have to give a rationale for why you're a good fit. Okay. And depending on how competitive that company is, let's take an example, say a company like Google. They can get over 1,000 applicants for a single position in a single location, a single job posting in a week's time. 1 week. And so out of those, let's say that 80% of those applicants have a relative fit in terms of key terms, skill sets. We can't interview 800 people in a single week. That'll take way too much of our engineering time. So the recruiter needs to be able to give a reason for why you're one of those people that we should push in to the interview process. And so they will give notes when they submit you to the interview process, and they'll say, I think they would be a good fit for these reasons. Okay. And then a hiring manager or some sort of approval process will happen where they'll say, I agree, or no, I don't agree. You need to look for these things so that the next person that you send me is a closer fit. Okay. And as you move through the process, even into the hiring committee, your recruiter is going to continue to sell you. And if all I can say is you worked with these tools before and you've had responsibilities across the entire software engineering lifecycle, other people who perform well in the interview process that have better qualifications are going to get the offer over you, even if you pass the bar in many cases. Okay. A competitive company will have more people that can pass the bar than they have the headcount to hire due to sheer volume of applicants. And they have the ability to be selective. That's why they're so successful. They could say, I have 10 people that all made it through the onsite, all passed our interviewing questions, and I get to pick the one that I like the best. So in order to be that one person, you need a recruiter that can talk to different interviewers, talk to different hiring managers, talk to different teams and say, this is the person that we cannot afford to lose. Because if we don't give them an offer, somebody else will, and they will make that company a lot of money. Okay? So they need to know what your impact was. Okay? Project-based bullets on your resume, on your LinkedIn, not responsibilities. Okay? Technical interviewers, hiring managers. Okay? They want to know the projects as well. Again, not responsibilities. Why for these people, as well as impact? So you're starting to see a theme here, right? Why is this important for them? Okay, I want you to think about music for a second. Every musician plays music. That's not what makes an artist special. I want to know what the music sounds like and do I enjoy it? It's not the fact that you strum on the guitar, it's what do you do with the guitar that matters. And so when you outline projects on your resume, you outline impact on your resume, now the hiring manager or the technical interviewer can not all recruiters like post-punk, that is true. But when we're in the interview process, what we're looking for is that the hiring managers, the technical interviewers are going to see projects that are relevant, that they're interested in, and they're going to ask you more details. How did you do it? Why did you do it that way? How can you improve it? And that allows you to sell yourself to them. If all you have is responsibilities, then they're going to spend the time instead to be like, okay, you worked in all parts of the software development lifecycle. Okay, can you tell me about some project that you worked on? And you're going to select a project that might not be very interesting to them. Instead, let them see the list of projects and then go, that looks really cool. Tell me about that. Because now you're telling them about something that they're curious about. They're going to enjoy that conversation a lot more. And chances are they chose that project because there are elements to it that if you could just show them that it was successful, they're going to say, they can do that here. We're working on something very similar. That's why I chose to ask about that. And that was successful. So they can make this successful. You see how this works? Okay. All right. And then there's team matching and budgeting committees. Okay. Now this is the last audience that a lot of people don't know about, and that's why I like to share this the most. Okay. Again, I view teams as more important than companies, and if you're somebody who is financially motivated or motivated by levels, okay, this is the team that you need to impress. Now you're only going to get to this team if you pass the interview. And if you impress the recruiters and you impress the interviewers. But these people most often will never meet you. All they know is these are 10 people who all got offers. We are hiring all of them. Now it's up to you to figure out which ones we should pay more when they ask. We should decide which ones should be on the high priority teams that are going to be better positioned for promotions, better positioned for raises, for more extreme raises. Again, they will never meet you. They are just looking at a piece of paper. They're looking at your resume. They're looking at your LinkedIn. And what do they need to see? They need to see projects that are relevant to key teams in the company. Okay. They need to see impact, right? They need to see that you did your job well. All these other people, yeah, they passed the interview process. Yeah, they had a job. They played music, right? But I can't tell if they did it well. So if they're asking me for more money, right? Think about it like a salesman, a car salesman for a second, right? If somebody comes to you and they say, "I sell cars," you say, "Great, I want to buy a car, maybe." But if somebody comes up to you and they say, "I sold 95% of my lot's fleet of SUVs over the past 6 months," now you're going to go, "Holy crap, you sold all of them." Right? I mean, not literally all of them, but you sold so many of them. You must be amazing at sales. Okay. And the funny thing is, numbers, they sound a lot more convincing oftentimes than reality, right? Because it's a big difference if I was expected to sell 100% of my lot's cars, if I was the only salesperson, or if I was selling 95% of the cars in a 20-person workforce, right? Either way, 95 is great. But the point is any proof that it was successful at all will stand out because a good 85 to 90% of resumes don't show any impact. So if you want to get promotions, if you want to get better levels, if you want to make sure you're not down leveled, if you want to make sure that you can get the best leverage for negotiation in the end, your resume needs to show it. And it's not that hard. Okay. So let me show you what I mean. Okay. And then we'll start to take some questions here. Um, but when you write your resume, okay, your experience section, okay, we have a few things here. Um, you want to show your position, you want to show the employer name, okay, the team or domain if you'd like. That's more optional, but I find that it helps, especially in the later steps of this process. Okay, you want to show when you started and when you ended. This I would even do for different teams within the same company, or if you get promoted, like I would have one level for software engineer, one level for senior software engineer separately. Okay. Um, and when you write your bullet, you want to include three things, right? You want to start with an action verb that describes the project, right? I developed an ML database, okay? That sets up, this is what the project was doing. This was the purpose of the project. My role was to develop it. Or if I'm a manager, I led a project to develop, right? Or I led an 8-person team to develop, okay? Um, I used these tools and technologies. And again, we're looking for tools and technologies that are relevant, that are within the tech stack of the company, if we can. Okay. If not, if this company that you're applying to uses different tools, it's okay. They'll teach you the new tools. Okay. But what you want to show is that these were the tools that I was working with, right? So they have that context of it's not just a key term anymore. It's this was being used for this purpose, okay? And then you say the results, which allowed for this kind of growth, improvement of efficiency, reduction of latency, whatever it is, okay? So there's three things there. Now the challenge is you really want to get this to like 1 to 2 lines of text, and that can be tricky, okay? But again, keep it focused on the project, right? It shows me what you have worked on, and that we can trust you with challenging problems, okay? Relevant skills, okay? We won't need to teach you much, or if we need to teach you, we understand kind of what your foundations are, and you'll be able to ramp up more effectively, okay? And then quantifiable proof of success. I know you did it well. Success travels. If you can succeed in one project, you can succeed in another project, right? So that's what it's really about, all right? Now, there's a few other things that I'll just skim through really fast, so we can spend more time on questions here. But when you're thinking about your resume, okay, there's 3 sections. You really want to hit that impact on that project base, and I keep on coming back to it, right? But that's really what recruiters, interviewers, hiring managers, budgeting committees, team matching committees, leveling committees, that's what they're all looking for. So in your introduction section, okay, obviously you need some contact information. You want to have 3 to 5 bullets that highlight the accomplishments that you've had. Okay, not just I had this kind of role. I want to know what specifically you worked on. Think of this as like the trailer of a movie. Okay. Yes, some of the information that you share here in this introduction will also be in your experience. Just like when you watch a trailer for a movie, you're going to see little clips that are in the movie itself. But if you can get them excited, then they're going to stop and say, okay, this person's a good fit. Let me understand why, like how good of a fit they are, versus if it's information that's very generic that can be applicable to any other resume that's in this funnel without changing a word, that's not going to help you, right? That's going to make you look like everyone else, and I don't want everybody else. I want the best person. So so allow them to get excited from the start. Okay, get tech skills in there in an organized fashion, right? These are the front end tools, the back end tools, the system tools, the hardware tools, whatever it is, but like section it off. In the body, you want your employment history, including promotions or team switches. Okay. How much info? About 3 to 5 bullets for 3 to 5 years, right? Meaning if this was in the last 3 to 5 years of my experience, I can give you 3 to 5 bullets. Anything before that, any role or level before that, 1 to 2 bullets. Okay. I care about what you did more recently, not what you did in the past. Okay. That's going to be more relevant. Uh, uh, Trim the fat. This is a billboard, not a book. They're not going to spend a lot of time. They're going to spend maybe 10 seconds on the initial skim. And if something catches their eye, then they'll slow down and give it a real read. If they don't see anything that catches their eye, they're going to be like, okay, not worth my time. I have thousands of applicants, right? Okay. And then the rest, education, personal projects, patents, publications, certifications, accomplishments, that can be in a section at the bottom. You can move some of these up into the introduction strategically, right? For example, if you went to a university that you know is really well known for something, you can put that in the intro because it'll help get them excited about you potentially. If you've worked on a personal project that's very relevant to them, for example, I had a student one time who wanted to get into an autonomous vehicle team at Uber, and they had actually built their car at home to be semi-autonomous. And so they put a link there to say, I built my car at home to be semi-autonomous, and they put it in the introduction. Is that a professional experience? No, it's a personal project, but it's very relevant and very impressive. So strategically, you can bring some of this information up above the work experience, but generally, this stuff is not going to get you the job or get people as excited as this stuff. Okay, so this needs to come first. Okay. So those are the main ideas that I want to get across today. Again, happy to answer any questions around different ways to apply. I have tons of information here that we could go on about for days. I have probably about 60 slides between these three presentations that are meant to help answer additional questions. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now, or at least move this to the side and come up to the Q&A. Okay. All right. Let's take a look here. So. Hi, Nick. I'm self-taught backend developer with Django from India. Very good. I'm working in India, based tech startup for 1.5 year or 1+ year. But I'm sorry, I'm trying to really quickly from anybody on the Codementor side, if there's a way to freeze the Q&A and not have it jump every time somebody puts something new, that'd be quite helpful to understand. Okay, so okay, but those companies only hire remotely in their own country. I want to know how I can get remote work while being living in India. I'm open to contract full-time work. So it's a great question, Sarah. The one thing that I would say is that I can't speak for every company within the US and Europe. Some companies may have the ability to hire remote workers outside of their countries. But generally, if that's going to happen, it's either going to be because they have a presence in India itself, or so that you would work for an American company in an Indian-based office, or a European company in an India-based office, or despite it being remote legally, they would require you to have a work authorization in that country. Because there will be certain employment tax codes or regulations that they're going to have to comply with. So how do you do that? It really depends on the company itself and what opportunities they have available to them, and that's a question you would have to ask the recruiter itself. and they'll be able to give you a lot more information around what opportunities are available given your situation. But I would say in general, it's a difficult ask in many cases, to work remotely from a different country in a different time zone, uh, um, for a company that's in a completely different time zone. And the reason for that is nothing personal, but it's just if I already have 1,000 applicants in my time zone, right? Like, I don't need to take on the burden of having to, um, work with somebody that's going to have a 12 and a half hour difference in their shift. It's going to make it very difficult for our teams to be aligned with your schedule and vice versa. And so it is an unfortunate reality. There's nothing preventing you from applying to those positions, but generally, if they can hire you, there's going to need to be either I can hire you for an office that is in your local area, and I'll hire people that are local to this geography and this geography. Or if we really like you, if you're a great fit, maybe we can try to make something happen. But there'll still need to be certain uh, compliance rules that we have to stay aligned with, and those have to be agreed to. Okay, good question. Second question here. How would be the best approach for resume for someone who has transitioned tech from a different field? Great question, Kenya. Kina. It still comes back to what we were discussing up here. Okay. Um, I'll come up a little bit. It's all about finding that relevance. Okay, it's all this. What you're doing here is you're saying, okay, I'm coming from a different field, right? Or maybe I have a different type of role, but there are elements that there's still crossover for. Okay, so feel free to clarify with a follow up here what your field is specifically, and I can give you some examples that would be helpful, and then we can kind of all apply it critically to our own spaces. Um, okay. Um, but yeah, it's about figuring out what the okay. So you're in project management, but like what? So you're saying you want to go from project management into software? Is that right? I'm just trying to make sure I'm clarifying. Okay. So if that's the case, if we're trying to go from project management to software, same thing. Okay. We're going to need to look at what kind of projects that company is working on. Okay. That we've worked on something similar so that we can at least show that we're a good fit for the company. Okay. Now, from a role perspective, it's unlikely that you're going to have a lot of overlapping skill sets, right? So you're going to need to be able to show them that you've developed those skill sets that your typical day-to-day experience would not provide. So this is where certifications come in. This is where personal projects come in. This is where internships and freelance work comes in. Okay, if you're working full time as a project manager, but you want to be a software engineer, it's going to be really hard to get a company to take a risk on you as a software engineer when I have applicants who are software engineers already. Unless I can say, yes, I'm working in my day job as a project manager, but I'm also working 10 hours a week building this application for this company, and here's my GitHub, right? Here's the impact that this application is having for the company. Okay, and then we also might need to lower our expectations a little bit in terms of what opportunities we're going for. And this comes back to kind of what's the best opportunity for you at this stage of your career. At this stage of your career, if you're trying to switch into a new domain like software, okay, we have to view this with a beginner's mindset, which is how do I develop the skill set to be a software engineer first? So I'm probably not going to be applying to a name brand company today. I'm going to be looking for opportunities just to hone my skills, internships, right? Entry level work, working for smaller companies or non-technical companies that might not be as sexy, but will still give you good work, right? For example, you might be able to work for a retail company that is brick and mortar retail first that's hiring software engineers, or even like I've seen pizza companies or sunglass companies, right? Having software engineers, even elementary schools in some parts of the world have software engineers that work on kind of administrative work. Now, you don't want to be in these roles for too long, right? Because you want to work your way up to build the right experience, but you have to start somewhere to where you can start to show that pivot. The other thing you could do as well is if there's opportunities in your current work environment, right, where you already are a project manager, that would allow you to start to execute on software tasks. Then you can put that experience, and that's actually an even stronger route for many people. If your current company is decently reputable. Okay. All right. Hi Nick, I'm self-taught. Very good. Sorry about this, guys. I know it's going a little slow. The chat just keeps jumping for me. So every time somebody puts something new, I lose the question. So what I would request is try to keep the question length short. If it's a paragraph, I do appreciate that you're trying to provide context, but I lose it every time somebody puts something new, and it makes it hard to read. Okay, so let me try this. Okay. I'm self-taught front-end developer from. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Is there a way to pop out? Maybe does that help? Okay, looks like pop out is holding. Okay, this should work. Okay, I'm a self-taught front-end developer from Nepal. I'm looking forward to join a challenging EU-US company as an intern or junior developer. I have previous experience as a web developer and recently started with Java, JS, React JS. I would like to know what approach should I take to make myself stand out. I am managing my GitHub and have also been practicing logic solutions by practicing coding challenges. Could you please suggest? So yes. I mean, you're doing all the right things. I would say first, right? Getting that first job is the hardest piece, right? When you're self-taught, you don't have that built-in credibility from a university or another institution, and so you have to be a little scrappy to get that first opportunity. And so just understand that like that's hard for everyone, and you might feel like that it's slow or that there's you're getting a lot of rejections. That's okay, that's normal. So how do you start to get that job, get that first opportunity? So what I would be looking at right now is when you're working on these projects that you're having on your GitHub and that are using JavaScript and React, okay, I would look for companies that are hiring specifically for people using JavaScript and React. And the easiest way to do this, okay, go to LinkedIn, go on jobs, okay, and you can put JavaScript and React, okay, but I actually wouldn't apply. Okay, and I know that sounds funny. For everyone who's applied online before, this is the biggest like pro tip I can give you for the night. Stop applying online. And I know that sounds super controversial and all this, but search for the roles that you're looking for. Okay, find the companies that you want to target. All of this. Okay, and look at their job descriptions and understand the types of projects that they're looking for. Understand the types of skill sets that you need to develop. And just like our friend here, Kamlesh, right? Start developing those skill sets now. What you want to do instead is you want them to find you. Okay. Statistically, applying online is the least effective way of getting an interview. Why? Because so many people do it. It's very easy and it becomes a bloated funnel. Instead, build a profile that has those key terms, that has those projects, right? Has the links to your GitHub so people can look into it, okay? If they're professional projects, make sure they have impact. And then, instead of applying directly, make it easy for them to find you. We're going to reverse engineer the platform, okay? This is search engine optimization, okay? So you're going to say open to, finding a new job, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to add position. It could be web developer, front-end developer. You can do multiple as well, right? Anything that is related. Okay, front-end developer. Okay, you can put a web developer. Okay, you can put Java developer, any of these. Okay, you can put hybrid, you can put remote. Okay, you can put locations that you'd be interested in. Somebody asked this as well. What's hybrid? Hybrid is an opportunity where they're open to both, right? They might ask you to come into the office a few times a week or a few times a month, a few times a year, but generally it's okay for you to be remote. Or if you want to be in the office every day, you can do that too. That's hybrid. They're very flexible, is what that means. And then in here, you put contract, part time, internship, temporary, any of those kinds of things. We're trying to get your start. These kinds of things are roles that are designed for people with less experience. They're less permanent, they're less expensive for the company, but you can just click all of these. You can even click all of them if you want. And what this does, okay, and I would also just a pro tip here, I would use this one, not this one, especially if you're employed, because this one will help your search results go higher with a recruiter. Okay, and when they're doing their searches, instead of being profile 10, you'll be higher up than people who don't have these things. This will do the same thing, but this also shows everybody, including your potential employer. So if you're unemployed, this could be a good strategy. But if you are employed, I would do this. Okay, and then you just add that to your profile. Boom. Okay. Oh, you have to click this. Boom. That's all you have to do. And what's happening now is when a recruiter is searching for you or for somebody with your profile, they already know. You could also put immediately applying, right? They already know you're ready for work immediately. You're open to the type of role that they're looking for, even without having to ask for it. Cool. So that would be my tip for you. Okay. I know we're a little over time here, and I appreciate everybody's willingness to hang out. We are going to need to wrap up pretty soon here. But if there are any additional questions that you guys have that we don't get to today, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. I do have. Discard that. This is me. Okay, Nick Camilleri. You can find me. Search for me right now if you'd like. I do like to post content from time to time, or I'll put posts out there, or sometimes I even do like little like live chats, Q&As, AMAs. So happy to answer more questions as we go. But let's take one or two more here to wrap up.
Yeah, I think for the sake of time, Nick, maybe one more, and then we can just wrap up. I know we have so many good questions, but I think they can just go follow you and contact you on your social media if they have any more questions.
It's perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'll go with this one because I think it's relevant to the purpose of the talk, and one that can help a lot of people at this point in time. So the question is, I've passed different stages of the interview before: recruiter, technical, project manager. However, the last phase with the VP or hiring manager, I cannot seem to pass. What is the advice to ace this phase? Okay, so this is a tricky one. With people that are in our program, we do what we call an interview audit, where we actually reflect with each of our students after each interview. And we'll meet with you after every single round of each stage of this, as long as you just come to us and you say, hey, I want to talk about this. And we can start to really hone in to say, what happened here and how can we give you the best chance to succeed the next time around, and even if it went well, we can say what happened here and how can we duplicate that success in the future. It's a little bit hard to say without doing something like this, but what I will say is that generally that round where you're meeting with a hiring manager is what we call a behavioral round, which is one where we're working through different scenarios that would be relevant to your day to day on the job, right? So we're not asking you to do a work task necessarily or to code things up. We're asking you to explain to us how you've succeeded in the past or how you've worked on challenging interpersonal situations. The best way to prepare for that is to look through all of the projects on your resume and think about all of the challenges that you faced to succeed. So some of them could be resource related challenges. Some of them could be interpersonal related challenges, like somebody slacking off, or disagreement about what the best approach is, or somebody that needs some help, right? So different things like this, and just think about all the challenges that you saw in each one of those, not technical challenges, but challenges, soft skill related challenges. And as you think through those, okay, I would outline it almost like a movie, okay? But I like the STAR method, okay? You can Google this. There's tons of resources on it. STAR. I'm sure many of you have heard of this already, but I like to outline it in one sentence apiece, okay? The situation, one sentence. The task, one sentence. Action, maximum 3 actions, one sentence per, and then result, one sentence. Now, you might naturally expand when you're in the interview itself, but the goal here is to give them a very clear picture of what the situation was that you were dealing with. Like they might ask you about a time when you dealt with you had to push back on a manager to get something moving. So you want to be very clear with the situation that you're answering their question. I had this situation with the manager. Okay, my task, my job was to do this. Okay, these are the steps that I took. These are the actions that I took, and this was the result. And you want to be able to deliver that in about 60 seconds to 2 minutes. And then let the conversation flow from there. Don't give them too much information. Okay, let them follow their curiosity and ask questions from there. Okay. That's probably the best advice I can give without diving deeper. It's actually far less subjective than we may think. There is a formula to it, but it's really about make sure that you're answering their question in an organized way so that they can then ask follow-up questions and dive deeper and then move on at a time that they're ready to move on. Okay. Great questions, guys. I know there's a lot of information here, but I always enjoy chatting with folks like you guys, and great questions that came through as well. Again, if there's any additional questions in the future, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. Happy to help there, or check us out. Come join us at IK, and we'll be happy to help you there.
Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us today. We definitely learned a lot of tips, tricks, and hacks, and it goes pretty well with our job fair. I feel our attendees will be ready to nail their next technical interview. But if you want to learn more about ARC and Interview Kickstart, we have the links in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. This is our last chat. And if you join our previous Tech Talks or if you missed any of them, don't worry. We are sending the recording your way. And don't forget to check out all of the companies that join us today that are hiring for open roles right now. That's it. Thank you so much for joining, and go follow Nick, and please ask him all of your questions. He will be so happy to answer. Thank you again. See you soon. We will leave this chat open for a few minutes if you want to take some of the LinkedIn profiles, some of the links, or just talk to other people, and then we will close it in a few minutes. Thank you again, Nick, for joining us, and thank you everyone for joining today, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. See y'all later.